You have done everything right. You reduced your portions. You cut out the sweets. You are walking more than you have in years. And when you look in the mirror, that middle section, that stubborn, firm belly that was not there a decade ago, has barely moved. I want to tell you something that most people in your position have never been told. The problem is almost certainly not what you are eating, and it is not how much you are moving. It is an organ sitting quietly in the upper right side of your abdomen that has been overwhelmed for years and is no longer doing the one job that would change everything. Today, I'm going to explain exactly what that means. I'm going to show you a 3-ingredient morning drink that directly supports that organ. And I'm going to tell you precisely what to expect day by day over the first 2 weeks. Stay with me through the explanation, because once you understand the mechanism, the drink makes complete sense, and you will never look at belly fat the same way again. I am Dr. Hameed Ullah Shaheen, and the conversation I want to have today sits at the intersection of liver health, bile function, and visceral fat. 3 things that are deeply connected and almost never discussed together in a way that is practical and actionable. This is not about a miracle cure. It is about understanding a biological process that has been working against you and giving your body what it specifically needs to reverse it. Let us begin with the organ itself. The liver's role in fat metabolism, what nobody explains clearly. Your liver performs over 500 distinct functions. It filters the blood, it metabolizes medications, it regulates blood sugar, it produces proteins essential for clotting, it manages hormones. But for the purposes of understanding why belly fat becomes so resistant in adults over 50, there is one function that matters above all others. The liver is the primary organ responsible for deciding what your body does with fat. When the liver is functioning well, dietary fat and stored body fat are broken down efficiently, converted into usable energy, and the waste products are excreted. The system runs cleanly. When the liver is under stress, accumulated from years of processed food, refined carbohydrates, seed oils, alcohol, or simply the metabolic changes that accompany aging, this fat processing function slows dramatically. The liver begins storing fat within its own cells rather than processing it. This condition is called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and a landmark study published in a major medical journal estimated that approximately 1 in 3 adults now has some degree of it, the majority without any diagnosis or even awareness. Here is the critical consequence. A liver that is storing fat cannot simultaneously burn fat efficiently. The processing capacity is consumed by its own congestion, and the fat that should be mobilized and used for energy instead remains exactly where it is, particularly in the visceral deposits around the abdomen, which are metabolically most active and most directly influenced by liver function. This is why you can eat carefully and exercise consistently and still see no change in the midsection. The problem is not caloric, it is hepatic. Part 2. The bile connection, the missing piece. Inside this mechanism, there is a specific fluid that most people never think about, but that determines how effectively the liver processes fat. It is called bile. Bile is produced continuously by the liver, stored in the gallbladder, and released into the small intestine when fat is consumed. Its function is essentially that of a biological detergent. It emulsifies fat, breaking large fat droplets into smaller particles that digestive enzymes can then process and that the intestinal wall can absorb. Without adequate bile flow, fat digestion is incomplete. Fatty acids that should be broken down and processed accumulate. The liver, already managing its own fat burden, receives additional unprocessed fat from the gut. The congestion deepens. Now here is the part that connects everything. Research has clearly established that bitter compounds, specific phytochemicals found in certain plants, stimulate bile production and release within minutes of consumption. This is not a folk remedy. It is a documented physiological response. When bitter receptors on the tongue are activated, they send a direct signal through the vagus nerve to the gallbladder. The gallbladder contracts. Bile is released. Fat digestion improves. And when fat digestion improves consistently over days and weeks, the liver's processing backlog begins to clear. This is the mechanism the morning drink I am about to show you is built on. Not vague wellness claims, a specific, physiologically grounded sequence of events. Part 3. Why bitter foods disappeared and what that cost us. Before I give you the recipe, I want to spend 1 minute on something that explains why this intervention is necessary in the first place. For most of human history, the diet included significant quantities of bitter foods. Wild greens, certain roots, unprocessed herbs, fermented preparations. These bitter compounds were a daily, natural stimulus to bile production and liver function. Over the past century, and accelerating dramatically in the past 50 years, the food supply shifted almost entirely towards sweet, salty, and umami flavors. Bitter foods were selectively bred out, avoided, or replaced. The modern diet contains a fraction of the bitter phytochemicals that were once consumed routinely. The consequence is that the daily physiological stimulus to bile flow that the body depended on for efficient fat metabolism has been largely removed. The gallbladder, without regular stimulation, becomes sluggish. Bile becomes more viscous and less effective. And the liver, without the downstream clearing that good bile flow provides, becomes progressively more congested. Reintroducing bitter compounds consistently, first thing in the morning, on an empty stomach, before anything else, is essentially restoring a stimulus that the body was designed to receive daily and has been missing. Part 4. The 3-ingredient morning drink. 3 ingredients, all available at any grocery store or pharmacy. Combined cost of approximately $2 per day. Preparation time, under 2 minutes. Ingredient 1. Fenugreek tea. Fenugreek, known as Methi in many South Asian households and widely available across Pakistan, is one of the most researched bitter herbs for liver and metabolic support. Studies have documented its ability to stimulate bile acid production, improve insulin sensitivity, and support the reduction of hepatic fat accumulation. To prepare, add 1 teaspoon of fenugreek seeds to 1.5 cups of water. Bring to a gentle boil for 5 minutes. Strain and allow to cool to a comfortable drinking temperature. The taste is distinctly bitter with a slight earthiness. That bitterness is the active signal. Do not sweeten it. The bitter taste is not incidental. It is the mechanism. Sweetening the drink blunts the very signal it is designed to send. If fenugreek seeds are not available, fenugreek tea bags are an acceptable alternative. Steep 2 bags for 5 minutes in hot water for adequate concentration. Ingredient 2. Fresh lemon, half. Squeezed lemon adds 2 things the fenugreek alone cannot provide. First, the citric acid in fresh lemon juice supports liver detoxification pathways, specifically the phase 2 detoxification reactions through which the liver processes and prepares toxins and metabolic waste for excretion. This is not a small benefit. A liver managing a reduced toxic burden is better positioned to prioritize fat metabolism. Second, the limonene in lemon peel, most concentrated in the zest, has been shown in clinical research to reduce hepatic fat accumulation directly. If you have access to organic lemons, squeeze half into the drink and grate a small amount of zest as well. If only conventional lemons are available, use the juice alone. Squeeze the lemon directly into the warm fenugreek tea and stir. Ingredient 3. 1 teaspoon of raw apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar, specifically the raw, unfiltered variety containing the mother, provides the third bitter signal while adding acetic acid, which research has associated with improved insulin sensitivity and reduced fat accumulation in the liver. The acetic acid in apple cider vinegar also slows the rate at which the stomach empties, which stabilizes blood sugar in the period after the drink, supporting the metabolic environment in which the liver can most efficiently process fat. Add 1 teaspoon to the prepared drink and stir. This is the complete preparation. Fenugreek tea as the base, fresh lemon for liver pathway support, raw apple cider vinegar as the third bitter signal and metabolic stabilizer. The protocol: when, how, and why. The timing of this drink is not arbitrary. It is specifically chosen to maximize the physiological effect. First thing in the morning, before coffee, before food, before anything else. Here is why this matters. In a fasted state, the liver has been performing overnight repair and processing work. The gallbladder has been accumulating bile since the last meal. The digestive system is primed for stimulation. Introducing bitter compounds at this moment produces the strongest and most complete bile release and the most uninterrupted liver stimulation available at any point in the day. After taking the drink, wait 30 to 45 minutes before eating. This window is when the bile, released by the bitter signal, is doing its most effective work in the gut. Introducing food during this window redirects digestive resources and interrupts the process. Sip the drink slowly over 10 minutes rather than drinking it quickly. Prolonged contact between the bitter compounds and the taste receptors on the tongue sustains the neural signal to the gallbladder for longer, producing a more complete bile release than a single quick swallow. Do this every morning for 14 consecutive days before evaluating results. Consistency over 2 weeks is what allows the liver to begin genuinely clearing its fat burden, not a single dramatic response on day 1. What to expect? A realistic day-by-day picture. I want to give you honest expectations rather than dramatic promises. Days 1 to 3. Some people experience mild digestive warmth, a gentle sensation in the upper abdomen within 20 to 30 minutes of the drink. This is the gallbladder responding, bile moving into the digestive tract, and the digestive system activating in a way it has not been activated first thing in the morning before. Some people feel slightly nauseous on day 1. If this happens, halve the apple cider vinegar for the first 3 days and gradually return to the full teaspoon. By day 2 or 3, morning bloating, the kind that makes the abdomen feel distended before the first meal, typically begins to reduce. This reflects improved bile flow and more efficient processing of overnight digestive waste. Days 4 to 7. Bowel regularity improves in most people. This is a direct consequence of improved bile flow. Bile has a natural stimulating effect on intestinal motility. More regular, better-formed bowel movements reflect a digestive system that is clearing more efficiently. Energy in the morning often improves during this week. Not dramatically, not a sudden surge, but a cleaner, steadier wakefulness that does not depend entirely on caffeine. This reflects the liver beginning to work with less backlog. Days 8 to 14. This is typically when people notice the first physical changes in the abdomen. Not dramatic weight loss, but a change in how the midsection feels. Less firmness, less pressure. Clothing that fits slightly differently around the waist. This represents the beginning of visceral fat mobilization as the liver's processing capacity improves and it begins drawing on stored fat for energy. Skin often becomes noticeably clearer during this period, a reflection of improved liver detoxification rather than anything topical. Part 7. What this drink cannot do alone. I want to be direct about this because honesty builds more trust than exaggeration. This drink is a targeted intervention for a specific mechanism, liver congestion and sluggish bile flow. It works within that mechanism effectively and consistently. It does not override a diet that continues to add the same inputs causing the congestion. If the daily diet is still heavy in refined carbohydrates, industrial seed oils, processed food, and added sugar, the drink is working against a current that is flowing in the opposite direction. It works most powerfully in the context of a diet based on whole foods, eggs, meat, fish, vegetables, healthy fats, legumes, dairy, that is not actively creating additional hepatic stress. It is not a replacement for that foundation. It is an accelerant within it. Think of the liver as a drain. This drink helps clear the drain. But if you continue pouring in the material that blocks it, the clearing will always be partial. If you have had your gallbladder removed, begin with half a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar rather than a full teaspoon, and monitor your response. Without a gallbladder, bile flows continuously rather than in controlled releases, and the response to bitter stimulation may be more immediate. If you have known gallstones, speak with your physician before beginning. Bitter compounds that stimulate gallbladder contraction can mobilize stones, which requires medical guidance if the stones are large. If you are on blood thinners, diabetes medication, or any liver-related prescription, discuss this with your doctor first. Fenugreek in particular has documented interactions with blood sugar medications and anticoagulants, and the dose may need to be monitored. If you are pregnant, avoid fenugreek as it can stimulate uterine contractions. For everyone else, healthy adults looking to support liver function, improve bile flow, and address the metabolic root of stubborn abdominal fat, this is a safe, inexpensive, evidence-aligned morning practice. The belly fat that has not moved despite your best efforts is not a failure of willpower. It is not a mystery. It is a liver that has been overwhelmed and a bile system that has become sluggish. And both of those things respond to specific, consistent, targeted support. 3 ingredients, 2 minutes of preparation, 30 to 45 minutes of fasting after, every morning for 14 days. Fenugreek tea for the primary bitter signal and liver support. Fresh lemon for detoxification pathway support and limonene. Raw apple cider vinegar for the third bitter signal and insulin sensitivity. That is the entire protocol. At the end of 14 days, body will tell you more clearly than any scale whether this is working, in how your clothing fits, in how your abdomen feels, in how your energy runs in the morning, in how your digestion moves. Leave a comment below and tell me, have you ever been told that your belly fat might be connected to your liver? Most people are completely surprised by this connection. I want to know your reaction. And if someone in your family has been struggling with the same frustration, doing everything right and seeing no results, share this video with them. The explanation they have been missing may be in these 12 minutes. I am Dr. Hameed Ullah Shaheen. Take care of your liver, and your liver will take care of the rest.